Attention, liberal snowflakes. Caught you listening again.
Well, you happen to have caught me in a moment of self-pleasure.
Stewie and Richie. The Patriotically Correct Radio Show is on the Warrior Radio Network.
Welcome aboard on this Wednesday afternoon, September 16 September 2020, and I'll tell you, the world has not changed much between yesterday and today, other than the fact that I continue to have problems with my mouse. It takes multiple clicks to get my thing going. And it's just, it's just one thing after the next. Intern boy over here, really doing a horrible job at his duties. We're broadcasting live every single weekday, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern, Mojo 50 Radio on iHeartRadio. So if you're an iHeart subscriber, just search the station Mojo 50. Great programming on Mojo 50 Radio. By the way, every single morning, the Daily Mojo with Brad Staggs and Ron Phillips. And then we've got American Defenders live. I gotta learn the other people on our network. I know Dominic Izzo. He follows us up in the evening time. Rocky Stucci is on in the evening time as well. You would not dare probably listen to somebody like Izzo or Rocky during the daytime if you want your kids to be around.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that they're very. I would say, what is that? Not PG-13, but something 14. Teenage ears and older, probably only.
Yeah. I was mowing lawn yesterday, and so I have a John Deere tractor, and not because my lawn is incredibly large, but because I enjoy it. It's fun.
Because you want to mow your lawn in 3 minutes. That's why you got a tractor.
Do it in 3 minutes. It's got a beer can holder on it too, bro. I mean, so, but I also cut, the justification for me having it is because I cut lawn for my neighbor, who is a widow. She's got to be in her upper 70s, middle 80s, something like that. And then next door to her, I have a upper 60s, some old woman who's married to a man who's a combat wounded war veteran who can't move. He's in a wheelchair most of the time. He depends on her to get around the house. And then across the street, I have people who are, they're busy, they're constantly gone, and then. So anyway, I mow 4 lawns total, and I enjoy doing it. It's kind of fun. It's I'm a neighborly kind of person. I want to make sure that my neighbors like me because if we're gone, I depend on them to kind of keep an eye out on the house. If I'm around and drunk and passed out, I kind of expect them to keep an eye on the house. I can't always keep an eye on things going on. Although we do have a fortress of cameras, and then we have what was that electronic thing that we have underground. So it's kind of the opposite of a dog thing because the dog has to be wearing a collar, right, to get shocked. Yep. Here, if you're not wearing a collar, you get shocked. So I had Johnson Jewelers make me a bracelet that I wear and then one for all the kids so they can come and go freely without shock. But if they come on the property without the device on, good Lord, look out.
Well, I guess I won't be surprising you with cupcakes and pizza or anything anytime soon.
I have quite the Nancy Pelosi fortress going on here. By the way, did you see the video of somebody shitting in her driveway?
That was classic.
Rocky Stucci Media posted that on their Facebook page. I had to share it on the Patriotically Correct Radio page yesterday. He called it a peaceful protest. So you had some news regarding protesters in Pennsylvania?
Yeah. So I was reading, and it seems that yesterday there was a judge in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, that was holding the protesters who were protesting the death of Ricardo Munoz. He was that mentally ill fella who ran at the cops with a knife in his hand, and they shot him and killed him. Well, this judge is now holding these protesters and set their bail at $1 million. I don't know for sure because I haven't done enough research or reading, but it's the first time I have heard of any judge in this land holding these people responsible and going to be prosecuted for the crimes that they commit.
Would be interesting to know if this is one of the judges that was recently appointed to the court, or if this was a judge that was elected. Is this a district court judge or is this a federal judge appointee?
No, he's a district court judge, I believe.
Okay, so he would have been elected. It would be interesting to know what side of the political aisle he's on, and it's a shame that we have to ask those questions. But it would seem that politics have infiltrated our criminal justice system as well as our not only on the streets but also in the courts. And this is why it's really important that Donald Trump is reelected, because clearly he's been doing a very good job at appointing federal judges to the courts, especially in those predominantly Democratic court system areas like District 6, for example, out on the West Coast and in like Denver, and then also U.S. Supreme Court justices in Kavanaugh. And then if he's reelected, he'll probably for sure have one, possibly even two more appointees. So no, it's great. I was when you started talking about this, I had to pull up this text message that I had received the other day with a flyer that I don't know if this is propaganda and if it's real or if there's any credibility to this, but I'm going to get to that. It kind of doesn't really matter if this particular posting is real, Richard, because we're seeing this kind of stuff all over the place. This is a picture that was posted to Hickman County Antifa. Okay, and there are obviously different Antifa groups all over the country. This particular one says, "Election day nears, comrades. Prepare to defend your rights. Attention, comrades. On November 4th, don't forget to disguise yourselves as patriots or Trump supporters." Interesting.
Oh,
we'll compare the two, patriots and Trump supporters. Wear your MAGA hats. Use flags. 3%er insignias. A convincing police uniform is even better. This way, police and patriots responding to us won't know who their enemies are, and onlookers and the media will think there are Trump supporters rioting, so it's harder to turn popular opinion against us. To that, Richard, you say?
I say that is almost exactly, different wording, of course, exactly the way the insurgency ran and did things in the Middle East. I know for us, when we were there in 05 to 07, it was hard to know who your enemies were because they dressed like the shopkeeper or the bongo truck driver or whatever. And so I would say that that is a declaration of things to come.
Disguising themselves.
Yes.
And, what I wanted to get back to is when it says dress as patriots or Trump supporters.
Yeah.
Do you have to be a Trump supporter to be a patriot? And do you have to be a patriot to be a Trump supporter? Because the word patriot to me means anybody who's willing to do anything to protect the freedoms and individual liberties that we have here in our country. That I think one of the highest forms of patriotism, other than enlisting in the military and volunteering to go die for our country, other than wearing a gun and a badge and running directly at gunfire to protect people that you don't even know, other than voting, I think one of the highest forms of patriotism is actually running for elected office and doing something that, to get up and change. There's a lot of people can sit back and bitch about this every day. But actually going and doing something. So would you if Antifa is saying dress as a patriot, wouldn't that be the actual definition of a fascist? To say dress as the opposition, and the opposition would be a patriot, and they claim to be anti-fascist. So really, isn't it that the Antifa people are actually the fascists?
Well, the whole thing started out with, "Hey, comrades." Who talked like that back in the Cold War and before? And also, Rocky Stucci and I had a very interesting conversation that really delves into this the other day on 9/11 when we were standing on the bridge. He hosted the flag line on the bridge over the interstate. And for the first half hour I was there, I was counting how many people drove under the bridge and reached out their window and flicked us off through their windshield, or even drove by us on the bridge and telling us we're crazy.
That actually happened? There were people giving you the finger for holding American flags?
Yes. Yep. And so the conversation went like this. This is exactly what's wrong with our country right now. There was not one Trump flag. There might have been one blue line flag, but there was a large plethora of different sizes of American flags. And 9/11, we're celebrating 9/11 or remembering and honoring 9/11, not because Trump is running for president.
Right.
You have the same turnout last year and the year before and the year before that when it wasn't even an election season. And so I think to answer your question, the difference between patriotism and a Trump supporter is a patriot. You could have been a Biden for president supporter, and you come on out on the bridge and hold an American flag, because that is what we were there to remember. The Americans that gave the ultimate sacrifice for people they didn't even know and ran into the damn building and tried to save lives and look for people. Not all this bullshit about a presidential candidate or a congressman or a senator. And so I think if you're asking me, that's the difference between a patriot and a Trump supporter.
And what is it about the flag? What would inspire somebody, in your opinion, Richard? And I know that you're very seldomly correct, but in your opinion, what would it be that would encourage or inspire somebody to drive in America? Specifically, what were you guys in, Afton, Minnesota?
Yep.
Okay. What would inspire somebody who lives in that general area or would be commuting through that area? You could speculate that they might live in Woodbury, in Stillwater, in Oakdale, in Oak Park Heights, Hudson, Wisconsin. There is right there on the border. Maybe the east side of St. Paul proper, the west side. You know, somewhere in that area. They live here in the United States and specifically in the Twin Cities metropolitan area. What would inspire somebody like that to see the American flag and then give an expletive gesture like that, in your opinion?
They're drinking the Kool-Aid. They have
what is the Kool-Aid, though? That's what I'm asking. What is
the Kool-Aid? Is the false narrative. The false narrative that law enforcement is systemically racist.
But hold on a minute. Why does the American flag just unilaterally represent law enforcement?
Well, but there's a lot of things. There's law enforcement. There's, the school system, the healthcare system. These people that started the Black Lives Matter group in Woodbury and had a whole group full of high school kids for a rally this last weekend. The one girl on there, she was the most ignorant young lady I think I've ever heard speak in a long time.
Did you hear her speak personally?
She was speaking. She had the microphone at the rally, and it was on their video.
Okay, so you saw this on the internet.
Yeah, right. And it was on the Black Lives Matter Woodbury Facebook page.
All right.
And she was talking about how racist healthcare is, and that as people of color or a minority, you're not going to get care. If you and a white person walk into the doctor at the same time, that white person 100% of the time is going to get care before you do. There's no triage. That's not a real thing. They're just going to pick out who they want to care for first.
That makes sense.
That's the Kool-Aid.
Okay.
It's bullshit.
Okay, so the healthcare system is racist. We've determined that now. This
Education.
afternoon. Yeah, educational. Okay, so the educational system is predominantly facilitated by people who I would have interpreted as drinking the Kool-Aid. Teachers, school administrators.
The lunch lady.
These are social justice warriors, right? I mean, they're indoctrinating our kids more using the liberal perspective than anything else.
Yep. I would agree.
I think it's become that if you're a conservative, you're a racist.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a Republican, you're a racist. If you're a libertarian, you're a racist. If you're not voting for Joe Biden, you're a racist. Who, by the way, is an elderly white man. Whose running mate, by the way, is a hypocritical, elderly Jamaican and American Indian woman.
Who claims to be African American.
African American. She says that she's black, right?
Yeah.
So in the party, let me get this straight here. In the party that says that old white men are the problem, the two front runners for the Democratic nomination were Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, two elderly white men.
With probably the most white privilege.
And then you have Donald Trump, an elderly white man.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between Biden and Sanders and Trump is profoundly obvious.
Yes.
Trump, who has been a part of a democratic, capitalist, free enterprise society since he inherited a business from his father and has then since been charged of running that enterprise. He has employed tens of thousands of people. He has had the right to fail. He has had the right to succeed.
And has done both.
Failed in some endeavors and succeeded in others.
Right.
The endeavor that he succeeded in that I think is probably most profound, obviously, is his candidacy for president of the United States. And that was despite being illegally, unlawfully spied on to gather intelligence information against him, to then illegally, unlawfully use against him, to, excuse the pun, trump up impeachment charges against him, the Ukrainian phone call, the Stormy Daniels thing, to frame him as a corrupt person. Well, everybody in Hollywood and everybody in lamestream media said if this guy's elected, which, by the way, he will never be elected. There's no way this guy will ever be elected. Donald Trump will never be the president of the United States. I don't have enough time on this program to play all of the tapes of the elitist mainstream media people, cable news network people, biased news network people, fake news media people, podcasters that said that. I don't have the time. I mean, we would be here for weeks. By the way, all of them are still here in the country, despite their promises to leave the country, should he be elected, while promising he never will be elected.
Mm-hmm.
So the difference between Donald Trump, the people who claim that they hate establishment, they hate our government. Our government has oppressed people. Our government is racist. Our government installations are racist. Our government's narrative is racist. Donald Trump, don't forget, just got involved with government nearly 4 years ago. Less than 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden has been in Washington for 47 years. So why is he the savior? Why is he the face of the Democratic Party? I mean, put aside, Richard, hold on, I want to let you in here, but put aside the fact that he is a pawn, okay, and a puppet, and that somebody's controlling him. But for the people on the streets that are marching and burning and looting and screaming racism and oppression and then hailing Biden, why don't they see through this?
I don't think that he necessarily is the savior. I think he's just the option that was given to the people who are going to vote for him. You could have put anybody in there. I mean, hell, you could have put
Kamala Harris.
You could have put Kamala Harris there. You could have put Chevy Chase in there. It doesn't matter who you put in there. Whoever's there is not Donald Trump.
Turner and Hooch.
And yes, Turner and Hooch was a very good movie. So I think that, it doesn't matter. There is no savior. All the saving grace of their narrative, I believe, is just that it doesn't matter who's there as long as it isn't Donald Trump.
The money pit.
Yeah. And I think that, these...
Great movie.
The Money Pit?
Yeah, I like that one. Another Chevy Chase movie. Continue.
Tom Hanks, bro.
I know. I'm sorry, dude. Go ahead. Said Chevy Chase, and you put me in the... Remember we were talking yesterday about nostalgia? You kind of put me back there on the couch. I'm in 8th grade. I'm coming home from school. Nobody's home. I'm alone. I used to be into baked potatoes. Weird, I know. But I used to, yeah. So I used to take these baked potatoes, or just a potato, right? And I'd poke holes in it with the fork. And then I would, throw it in the microwave for 5, 6, 7 minutes. I forget how long it is before a potato is done in the microwave, however long. And then I would pull it out and cut it down the middle and then, spread it open, and I'd throw cheese on there and, sour cream and bacon bits and all kinds of different shit. And I would sit in front and put my feet up, anything but homework. All right. So I'd have this loaded baked potato. I was on this kick during the Chevy Chase times, and I would watch Chevy Chase movies. Wasn't he in Fletch also?
Yeah, he was Fletch.
Turner and Hooch. The Money Pit, though, I think is probably the one. I remember my mother had just had surgery, and laughing was very painful for her. But The Money Pit it was not a good movie for her to watch. And for those of you who haven't seen The Money Pit, despite what Chevy Chase's effed up political viewpoints are, he did a phenomenal job in that movie. Shelley Long was in that movie. She was the chick from Cheers. Remember her? She was Diane on Cheers. And the two of them, long story short, they buy this house. It's this mansion, old house, and they have to put all kinds of money into it. And then the ship sinks, basically, and he has to do the whole thing. It's hilarious. The stuff that falls apart in this house, and the permit guys that come out and they're all corrupt. And
but remember, The Money Pit was Tom Hanks, bro.
Oh, it was. You're right about that.
So was Turner and Hooch, but Fletch was Chevy Chase.
Why do I have the two of them mixed up? Probably because I was thinking Cheers.
They're cousins.
Chevy Chase was in Cheers. They're not cousins. That's fake news. Don't do that on this afternoon radio program. Anyway, you were saying, and I interrupted you, and I got it all wrong. So I guess
that's okay.
We are the fake news here this afternoon. Sorry about that.
Well, hey, we're falling in line with the rest of the media.
No,
right?
We will never do that. We'll never. Do that.
But here's what I wanted to. Here's how I wanted to end up my thought.
Hold on, end your thought in a second. Damn it! Think of how many people were just listening to me go on this long baked potato tangent and going, "Is this guy an effing idiot?" That was Tom Hanks, man. Go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, this goes to show that even after 16 or 17 years of brotherhood with a man of different blood, you learn new stuff all the time. I had no idea that you ever were endeared to baked potatoes.
And Chevy Chase, or as it turns, Tom Hanks. Finish your thought, man. We're running out of time here.
Okay, so to finish my thought, we were talking about the Kool-Aid, and the Kool-Aid all got tainted, I think, when Donald Trump came down that elevator. Mm-hmm. That is when the difference between a patriot and a supporter of either party became different. The man is not a politician. He has promised to drain the swamp, and I think he's doing it. Mm-hmm. And these career politicians like Joe Biden, who's been in the Senate for 47 years and hasn't done much. He doesn't have very many accomplishments, I would say. They don't like it, right? And they want the old style back, their old government politic life back. And it doesn't look like they're going to get it, at least not this term. So are you just deal with it?
So are you patriotic for being a Donald Trump supporter, or are you patriotic by a different definition?
Well, my patriotism is completely separate from my political beliefs and support.
You are a supporter of the president.
I am a supporter of the
Just
president.
For the record.
Yes, but I could still say that it's different.
When you're
I'll go stand next to a Democrat on the bridge and wave a flag and talk about how much and why I love this country.
Yes, that's what I was getting at. And those are the people who need to understand the importance of their vote.
Right.
Being a patriot and really loving America, if those are the two things that you are and that you do, a vote for Joe Biden is not a vote for America. A vote for Joe Biden is not a vote for freedoms and individual liberties. You want to know what you're going to get with Joe Biden? Let me show you here. Corruption. Hold on a second. I've got it. I've got it right here. Here it is.
It makes me want a baked potato.
What doesn't? More PC Radio coming up right after this. My name is Stu. That guy over there is Richard Leonard. Joe Biden and freedom, not synonymous. More patriotically correct radio straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
We will force votes.
We will not stop.
Any Republican senator is part of the cover-up.
What the f***?
Impeachment.
This is madness.
The PC Radio Show with Stu and Rich. Back in a minute.
Hey, it's Stu Peters for Johnson Jewelers, located in Woodbury, Minnesota, but more importantly, located online worldwide at johnsonjewelers.com. Why is that important to you? Well, because if you have been left behind or you have discovered a family heirloom or something that's important to you, maybe it's grandma's birthstone, or maybe it's a pendant or a family crest, maybe it's grandpa's ring, but it doesn't quite fit you, or maybe it needs to be restored, or you see something completely different in mind. Why shove that thing in a safety deposit box? Why put it aside or put it in a shadow box or just break it out every once in a while to show the grandkids? Instead, you could wear that with a custom piece of jewelry designed for you, specifically by johnsonjewelers.com. A quick visit to the website, a couple of emails exchanged, and maybe a few phone calls, and you will have that custom piece of jewelry that means something for you. Visit them online, worldwide, johnsonjewelers.com, johnsonjewelers.com. That's johnsonjewelers.com.
Their mamas always told them they'd never amount to anything.
You know what? I am going to ground you for 3 months.
Yeah, they were right.
Why doesn't anybody ever listen?
Stuart and Richard, PC Radio is on.
Welcome back to the second half of PC Radio on this Wednesday afternoon. All kinds of stuff going on. More things to talk about other than Tom Hanks and Chevy Chase. I'm sorry that we got off onto that tangent. It's sometimes you get into these conversations and we just, I don't know. I apologize. In any event, some terrible news coming out of Los Angeles, California, and Nancy Pelosi's state. This has been a developing story that we originally learned about a couple of days ago when 2 sheriff's deputies were shot and killed, and we'll take you to Los Angeles now.
This morning, that massive manhunt for the gunman who ambushed 2 Los Angeles sheriff's deputies walking up to their cruiser and unloading multiple rounds before fleeing on foot.
Stand by for a GSW, be a deputy involved at the blue line.
One deputy was hit 4 or 5 times. The other one was hit at least 3 times. So it was quite a few rounds.
The deputies, a 31-year-old mother of a 6-year-old and a 24-year-old, were both sworn in only 14 months ago. And somehow, though shot through the jaw, the female deputy tends to her partner.
And she goes around the car, applies a tourniquet to him to stop the bleeding. She gets on the radio and she's calling for help, but she's having a hard time because she can't speak very well. So you can hear the voice of that.
They're both rushed to the hospital in critical condition.
Your patient was transported by sheriffs en route to local trauma center.
Protesters gathering at the hospital to heckle the deputies. One protester live streaming the event. Protesters heard taunting the injured deputies.
I hope you
Tensions have been soaring in South LA since sheriff's deputies shot and killed this man, Dijon Kizzy, on August 31st, firing 15 shots at him. Since then, there have been nearly nightly protests at the local sheriff's station. Overnight at his Las Vegas rally, President Trump responding to the shooting.
Tonight, our thoughts are with the 2 sheriff's deputies in Los Angeles who were fighting for their lives when a vicious criminal walked up to their vehicle and shot them at point-blank range.
And this morning, the sheriff telling us they're concerned about additional attempts on officers' lives.
It's going to cause us to be a lot more concerned about when we approach vehicles, when we're out there on the streets. We have everybody paired up in 2-man vehicles now, so we're going to have to be watching out for each other's back out there on the streets.
We talked about this, Richard, with what's going to be responsible for the tipping point and for the actual civil war, I guess. And you used to be really careful about saying those words together. If 2 or 3 years ago you would have told me that we're looking at civil war here, I would have said, "Shh, God, Jesus, don't say that." I mean, that's You don't say those kinds of things, but we are. And that's just the truth of the matter. And we talked about that tipping point potentially being when these 30 street gangs or members of these street gangs in Chicago who have promised to gun down any cop who removes his weapon from his holster in daylight or in the public, that they're going to gun him down and shoot him dead, him or her, that this would be, that you and I think that this would potentially be it. Because, men and women of the United States that don't represent the people that are on the TV that you see every night that are, being infiltrated into your living rooms by the mainstream media, that are showing all the looting and the burning and the shooting of cops and throwing trash can lids at them and knifing them. I mean, here we see, what the media called protesters, as you just saw in our clip, standing outside of the LA County Sheriff's Office and outside of the hospital, heckling deputies, saying, "I hope they effing die," as they're being rushed in there. This is a very prolific time in America. I happen to be married to somebody who doesn't pay much attention to it, and I'm okay with that, to be honest with you, because when it really comes down to it, it's going to be you and I and guys like Joe the cop that are going to be grabbing weapons, and that we're going to be out here in the streets and we're going to be fighting, Richard.
Yeah, my wife also is. She pays attention a little bit, but she doesn't like it, and she doesn't care to seek out the news like you and I do. And I think that you're absolutely right. When the revolution comes and those sacrificial lambs need to be taken, it isn't going to be your wife and my wife. And I don't know if Joe's married, but his wife stepping out on the front lines to defend our homestead and our families and the things that we care about. And so, yeah, and we get enough of it. We
Joe
get enough
cop
of all
is,
that.
Not
that
married.
crap.
He's not, and which probably is the reason why he has the opportunity to be here in the afternoons occasionally, and really at the spur of the moment notice to be here on this low budget afternoon radio program. And today we welcome in Joe the cop. Welcome back to PC Radio, Joe.
Thanks, Stu. I do want to point out that I am married and that my wife hates my social media career.
Oh, I thought you were not married.
Oh, no, I am.
Okay. I
She
apologize.
hates the career, and she's not on my page because she hears me screaming about it all the time anyway.
The second thing I've gotten wrong today, I falsely compared Chevy Chase movies to Tom Hanks and vice versa, and now, Jesus, a friend of mine that to be quite candid and transparent here, we've never met in person, but I feel like we've grown to be pretty good friends. Joe, you have seen the media coverage of what's transpiring in Los Angeles, and let's talk about the shooting, and let's talk about the climate of the targeting of police and the war on cops in America. The floor is yours.
Sure. Well, Stu, we should not be surprised at what we are seeing happening right now in Los Angeles. As you know, and I said this many times before, and I predicted this. You've seen me predict this on my page. It was going to come to this eventually, because when law enforcement command staffs failed to take charge of these thugs in the first place, it all started with Ferguson, but it really kicked off in a high gear with this George Floyd, with this kneeling bullshit and everything else that came along with it, this pandering, this placating to these thugs who are going to hate you no matter what. This is what brought us here. You didn't stop them in the beginning. Are you surprised they showed up at the hospital? I predicted a few months ago they were going to start showing up at hospitals and trying to delay patients' medical care. These are savage, primitive lowlifes, okay, that do not care about anything else except causing disruption. What they want to do is they want to target random people just to get their point across. Now, my question to this is, and I know that the Los Angeles Sheriff's deputies did a good job of stopping them from entering the hospital, but if they would have entered the hospital, saying that they hope that the deputies die, if they enter the hospital, we have to assume they are there to either cause disruption of patients needing medical care, attack the hospital staff, or attack the deputies themselves. How is that not a deadly force situation?
You're absolutely right, Joe. And I want to say this, that a few weeks ago when you made the prediction that you were just talking about, I will admittedly go, well, man, I really don't know if it's going to come to that. I really hope it doesn't come to that. And now, slowly over the last 3 or 4 weeks, I'm in 100% agreement with you. And it is going to be, unfortunately, at some point, it's going to be a pretty bloody time in our country. And I think it's going to be something that we as Americans will end up being a little bit ashamed of, that we let ourselves get to this point. Man, go ahead.
No, I totally agree. As I said, and I keep saying this, Hal Rittenhouse in Wisconsin was not even deliberate. He tried not to have to shoot anybody. He was reactive. Imagine if somebody or several somebodies that know what they're doing with military or law enforcement experience got together and decided to do something about the problem. It will get very bloody. It won't get bloody. It won't get bloody for people on the right. It's going to get bloody for people on the left. This is the civil war that they wanted. This is the civil war that they are pushing for. If they get that, it's going to end very badly for them.
We have talked about this Civil War thing potentially happening, Joe, and what we've been pontificating about on PC radio is, we don't know really who the sides are going to be. Who's going to fight against who? Is it going to be Republicans versus Democrats? Is it going to be white people versus black people? The latter, I don't really think so, because there's a lot of really good black people out there, and as a matter of fact, a lot of them stand on our side of the situation, and they don't like what's going on here. So I guess the question that I wanted to ask you, if you're going to make a prediction, which most of your predictions have been accurate on Patriotically Correct Radio, who do you think are going to be the sides during this civil confrontation or civil war?
It would have to be conservatives. It's going to be conservatives versus the leftists. As you pointed out with the white and black thing, no, I don't believe it's going to become a race thing. Look, most lawfully armed black people that I know will tell you that they have guns, and it's not because they fear the police. They know that statistically speaking, they are more likely to be victimized by other black people than they are to have an adverse confrontation with law enforcement, as long as they're obeying the law. So no, I don't believe it's going to be a white or black thing. It's going to be a left versus right thing. The left has gender identity issues, safety pins, and white guilt and a lot of unresolved anger that they don't even know about. The right has the military training, the law enforcement experience, and the guns. We saw what a 17-year-old kid did to 3 hardened criminals just reacting. It would be a very simple matter for armed persons to descend into the crowd of protesters, to tell them they're just there to march along with them to protect their non-existent constitutional rights, okay? And these idiots would believe it. And if that individual would want to cause havoc with the simple AR-15 platform, it could make what happened in Kenosha seem like a paintball battle by comparison. The left better be very careful for what they're pushing for here, because it's not going to end well for them once we get to that tipping point. If armed conservatives ever got together and decided to be proactive, Antifa who?
Right.
It'd be a distant memory.
And what you said about that is pretty much in line with what I've been predicting. That is, if this thing actually goes somewhere, and if this is the situation that happens where it seems inevitable that that's what's going to take place, how long do you think it would take for this conflict to be resolved?
That's kind of hard to say. I mean, if you notice there haven't been too many problems in Kenosha ever since the shootings up there. To me, it's just a simple matter of somebody setting the tone somewhere, and they'll say, oh, well, we can't go to that town because they're not tolerating it. It's the same when law enforcement officials get up there and say, like Sheriff Grady Judd, you won't come down to Polk County and do this. My deputies will shoot you. Do you hear of any rioting in Polk County? No. Because they're not tolerating it. It's really going to come down to, and I honestly believe, Stu, the next step, okay, for these savage life forms will be to go to random homes. Okay, and I haven't been wrong in any of my predictions yet. Because if you follow this, it has a logic to it. They will go to random homes in the suburbs, try to break into the homes and attack people. They're already harassing and assaulting people in restaurants just trying to eat with their families. Now, if they make the mistake of going to police officers' homes, well, that's not going to end well for them at all. But they are going to try because they feel they've been given free rein by these weak and cowardly and passive chiefs. So I predict that, yes, it's going to come to the suburbs. And at that point, people have to make a decision.
I really hope. I agree with you, Joe, and I hope that we're wrong on that. Because so in my neighborhood, across the street and one door to the right is a police officer. And we were talking about that out in his driveway. He had a fire the other night and we were having a beer and talking about these things. And I said, so you police the neighborhood here. He polices the neighborhood that we live in. And I said, what happens if this bullshit comes to our neighborhood and I catch somebody breaking into my house and I air them out and blow them out of my house, as the sheriff down in Florida was saying. Mm-hmm. And he goes, well, I can tell you what I would say as a police officer. And he said, I know your background. He's also a disabled Army infantryman, disabled vet. And he said, unfortunately we have to operate within the confines of the law. But he said, certainly there'd be a whole lot different conversation than if you were out in the city square and you started, knocking people off. So I really hope that that's not something that has to happen, because now we're going to have to use police resources and county resources to prosecute homeowners that are just defending their stuff. Because in Minnesota, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stu, I could be wrong, but if somebody breaks in our house and we end up, doing whatever it is we need to do, we're still going to jail.
Right. I mean, at least in the interim. And, that is something that it's different in every state. And, Rittenhouse was the example that Joe used. And this is a guy who's now been jailed. And Joe, you've talked quite a bit about this Kyle Rittenhouse. Has there been any developments on him as of recent that you're aware of?
To my knowledge, no, it's still about the same. I wanted to add to something that Rich just said. Now, in my state, we have a castle doctrine. Okay, and my state is gun friendly. Mm-hmm. We are covered in our homes if somebody breaks in the house. Okay, and using deadly force. Now, what you had in a situation like in St. Louis with the McCloskeys, okay, the attorney, husband and wife attorney team, who are being charged. They're going to be found not guilty, and that's if it even goes to trial, because the Missouri Attorney General is looking to have those charges dismissed. But here's something that we pushed on here, we touched on before. If you force me as the local police to say you are on your own, mm-hmm. we can't protect you. They can't be everywhere at once anyway. But if they say, you know what, we're not allowed to be proactive anymore. My chief won't let us be proactive on the street. You guys are pretty much on your own. And then I have to defend myself because of your failure. And I'm looking at this not as a police officer myself. I'm looking at this as a private gun owner, okay, who is a citizen a lot more hours of the week than I am a police officer. At that point, if you come to arrest me, I may have to make a fateful decision. Am I going to allow you to remove me from my home when I just had to defend myself, or am I going to be in a position where I have to make a last stand? This is what police chiefs have brought us to, and these corrupt district attorneys. All right? We may, Stu, come to a point where we see the citizens have a violent backlash towards the police and towards these corrupt district attorneys.
Do you think, though, also that there's going to be a situation where a lot of working police officers and a lot of currently enlisted military people are going to have a significant issue with this uprising, and that they are, too, then going to be involved with switching sides, if you will? How can these people, how can people who are acting in good faith and took an oath to uphold the Constitution really actually go and put citizens in that very predicament, where then you would be involved in a situation where you might have to resist?
Well, I can tell you right now, and I've had this conversation with my own bosses. I'm generally a good little company guy, does what he's told. But on the day that I'm told to block traffic, so protesters can then block traffic and harass them, I'm not going to be a part of that. Mm-hmm. I'm going to walk off. I am not, as a police officer, I am not supposed to help people break the law. I'm not going to do it. My inclination is to take action in that situation. I'm not going to help them break the law. I'm not going to be a stationary target either.
Do you think that there's a lot of people that are currently working wearing a gun and a badge that share that sentiment?
They do, yes. A lot do. The more I talk about it, the more I find a lot do. The issue is that, well, they may have families, they may have kids, they may have kids that have special needs, kids they're trying to put through college, and at the same time, some of them just say, you know what, I don't really care. I don't really see this as a big deal. And I'm not here to criticize them. But what I'm here to say is that mentality is how we got to that point. Right. If you tell me to make a decision between my job, okay, and my values, then my values are going to win. I am not going to help thugs take over a street. I'm not going to enable them to do it. It's going to be one or two things. I'm either going to take action, you're going to have to pull me back from the scene, or I'm just going to leave because I'm not going to be a part of that. I can't be a part of that. That's how we got to this situation. If an entire precinct told their lieutenant, you know what, no, we're not going to stand there and allow this to happen. We're not going to let them take over.
Power numbers.
What could they do? You can't fire everybody. You might get to a point where there might be some mutiny in these larger agencies. You might see violent mutinies. We are now on the path where people are considering actions that they never would have considered before, and it's because of the failures of law enforcement, and it's because of the corruption of some of these district attorneys. Now, look, most district attorneys are excellent, ethical people, but some are not. And those who are not, unfortunately, are protected. They have pretty much absolute immunity unless they do something outright criminal. And the only way to fix that problem is to turn around and have the laws changed to give them protection. Let's just look at John Choi with the Philando Castile. He knew that was a lawful shooting. He absolutely knew that was a lawful shooting. He brought him to trial anyway, knowing he was going to lose the case, which he did. He was able to do that because of the laws that give prosecutors nearly unlimited immunity and discretion. But that's still corruption all the same.
Well, I think that I share your sentiment, Joe. Stu and I talked about this a few years back when there was all this hubbub about the government coming to take your guns, and all this other stuff. And Stu had asked me, he goes, okay, so you're a United States Army. Well, I'm a Minnesota National Guard soldier. If I go to drill one weekend or we get activated and the commander says, all right, you guys have this sector of this town, I need you to go door to door and ask for these people's guns.
Right. Yeah.
Are you going to do it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm not going to do that. First of all, I don't want to get shot. Second of all, I don't think that it's not right. And so when you talk about having to block traffic for protesters and then watch them break the law and just stand by, I agree with you 100%. And I think that there are, unfortunately, I know of a few soldiers in the Minnesota Guard who probably would do that and who would go door to door and say, hey, they told us we got to come get your guns, so give them up or we're going to come in and take them. And unfortunately, I think there's probably also some police officers, some cops in this country that would do it too, because now you're put into a really shitty spot because, people do have families to feed. They got mortgages to pay and all this other stuff. And what are you going to do? You're going to throw your 18-year career away? It's a really shitty spot to be in. And I really hope that nobody ever has to be in that position at all.
Do you know what, Rich? That's an excellent point you just brought up. I used to be your good little statist as a police officer, meaning that, the laws exist for a reason. I don't question them. I just enforced them. And I used to say, you know what? It's not up to me to determine which gun laws are constitutional or unconstitutional. And technically speaking, it's not. I'm not a judge, okay? I'm not the Supreme Court. But what I'm seeing now, okay, when you are allowing people to get out of jail with no bail on homicides, when you want to open the borders and let illegals flood into this country, okay, when you want to handcuff your police from doing your job, I'm no longer a statist. I'm now a libertarian. I am not going to remove guns from otherwise law-abiding citizens. It's just not going to happen.
You're right.
Because within the next 7 years, if I make it that long, I am retired. I'm a citizen. I'm not giving up my guns. You're letting this stuff run rampant. You never before saw this happen in America, where people go and harass people in restaurants because they want them to believe what they believe. That's not America. America is, hey, can I sit down and talk to you why I feel Black Lives Matter and why I feel the police need to be defunded? And maybe we can have some dialogue and some feedback. And the person says, yes, sure. That's America. That's democracy. This is not America, okay? We cannot live under the boot heel of less than 1% of the population. And that is exactly what's happening. This is why people are getting mad. Kyle Rittenhouse was just the tip of the iceberg. You're going to see people deliberately. You're going to see some people who might just be just a little bit deranged. All it takes is for a person to rationalize, I can do this, and here's what's going to happen. I'm either going to jail for the rest of my life or I'm going to be dead. But once that person dedicates himself to that mission with the understanding that these are the consequences, it can be done. And this is what the left has been pushing for. And they're not going to like it when they get it.
I really hope that these police administrations and these government entities understand and realize at some point either the police and the military, if possible, handle this situation, or the people who are sick of it, the silent majority, and those of us who just want to be left the hell alone. I want to go to work. I want to come home. I want to drink a beer. I want to kiss my wife, come into my man cave and watch some stupid action movie and not have to worry about somebody breaking in my house.
Yeah, Chevy Chase or
Isn't that what we
if
all
they don't
want?
handle it, we're gonna. And then what? Then it's going to be complete chaos, because I'll tell you what, out of all the veteran friends that I have that I've served with and that I've met through the course of my 19 years of service, once we start, you're not telling us to stop until the mission's done. We're not built that way. We weren't indoctrinated that way. You start the job and you finish it or you die.
Joe,
so
we're coming up on a hard break here and running out of time. That's how this radio thing goes. But I just want to ask you, in a minute or less, there are a lot of people who say that the war on cops is complete BS and that the cops are the problem. If somebody comes up to you in that diner today and says those things, in a minute or less, your final words to them would be what?
I would just laugh at them, Stu. If they want to tell me that I'm the problem, I would just laugh at them. And I would also say that every time that something goes wrong in your pathetic life, half of which isn't even police related in the first place, you pick up the phone and call us. You can't get by a week without using us. Anytime something goes wrong in their life, in their house, most of the time it's not even police related, they call us. I would just laugh at them. I would laugh right in their face, because I know that they need us even when they don't need us.
Yeah. Joe the Cop, you'll be back on Friday, I presume, correct?
If you have a show, I'm here.
All right, that sounds good.
Attaboy.
Appreciate you being here. Joe the Cop, he's a currently working cop in the United States of America. We're not able to tell you where. We're obviously going to protect his anonymity because, Richard, as you know, police officers that are currently working in the United States, unless they're of an upper command staff level or a PIO, public information officer, or unless specifically with discretion given the permission to speak with us, they don't have a First Amendment right. It's a damn shame. You look around the country, you look at people like Lieutenant Randy Sutton, retired Las Vegas Metro PD officer, one of the highest decorated officers ever to come out of that department, now has his own radio show. Ray Dietrich has been on our show, will be on our show tomorrow. Actually, yeah, we're going to talk to him, and we're going to talk to Randy Sutton on tomorrow's show. Two very big name guests. And Ray Dietrich, he hosts Coffee with a Cop and so on and so forth. Both of them very, very good patriots and lawmen who have now since left the law enforcement profession and are able to speak out. Richard, your final words.
My final words for the day are going to be light. Try brisket and cheddar cheese on your next baked potato.
There's nothing wrong with baked potatoes, man. I mean,
I love them.
They're awesome. You put a bunch of stuff on them, man, and you get that baked potato thing going. Until tomorrow at this time, here's what's up to it. Here's what's down to it. Here's to any way you can get to it. Here's to those that don't do it. Maybe be dragged to it, tied to it, or forced to it. And here's to us that do it, because we're the ones that's used to it. We'll see you tomorrow. What is it? 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern, right here.
Broadcasting live from the highest cloud of privileged patriotism. The PC Radio Show is on Mojo 50 Radio.